So, in this module we shall learn about the information that can be obtained from microwave spectroscopy. Should be able to use the information from rotational spectroscopy to determine the bond lengths of heteronuclear diatomic molecules. Already learned that homonuclear diatomic molecules do not show any rotational spectra. So, for these you can find out the bond lengths. The effect of isotopic substitution on rotational constants will also be discussed. As you see, the moment of inertia is the quantity that can be determined. So, both mu can be determined as well as r square, whatever is the unknown. The breakdown of the Born-Oppenheimer approximation and centrifugal distortion and its effect on the rotational spectrum will also be explained. So, first we will look at the introduction of this module. Pure rotational spectroscopy is observed in the microwave region. We already know that the rotational energy levels are quantized and the rotational terms for a diatomic molecule are given by Fj is equal to B bar j into j plus 1, and Fj is the rotational energy expressed in wave number units and the rotational constant is also expressed in wave number units. The selection rules that we have learnt about are the molecule should possess a permanent dipole moment, and the second is that delta J is equal to plus or minus 1. This means that rotational spectra are only observed for heteronuclear diatomic molecules and the lines in the rotational spectra are equally spaced, the spacing between adjacent lines being equal to twice of B bar in wave number units, from which the rotational constant can be obtained. So, this is a brief summary of what we have already learnt up till now, and now we will look at how molecular constants can be obtained from rotational spectra. We now consider what information about the molecule can be obtained from the rotational constant. We already know that B bar is equal to h by 8 pi square IC, and you observe that h is Planck's constant. So, it is a fundamental constant, 8 is a constant, pi is also a constant well known, and c is the speed of light. So, the only unknown is the moment of inertia, and except I, the moment of inertia, the rest of the terms in the expression are fundamental constants. Insertion of these values leads to the simplified equation I is equal to h by 8 pi square B bar c, and if you put in all the values of the constants, what you find is that it is 27.99 into 10 raised to the power of minus 47 by B bar kg meter square, where the rotational constant is expressed in centimeter inverse and you get the value of the moment of inertia in kg meter square. This is a useful expression to remember, because if you remember this expression, you do not have to do these lengthy calculations. Let us now apply these equations to see what information can be obtained from rotational spectra. So, I am taking the example of carbon monoxide, and here it was found that the spacing of rotational lines in the spectrum, it was 3.84235 centimeter inverse, and from there you can find out the value of rotational constant, because as you know that this is twice the rotational constant, and so if you divide by 2 you get 1.92118 centimeter inverse. And when you substitute in the expression for the moment of inertia, I is equal to h by 8 pi square B bar c, what you get is a value of for the moment of inertia which is 1.457 into 10 raised to the power of minus 46 kg meter square. Now, let us see what other properties can be obtained. The moment of inertia is a product of the reduced mass and the square of the internuclear distance. This means that if we know the reduced mass, we can easily determine the internuclear distance. Now, this is a part of the rotational spectrum of carbon monoxide, and here you can see that there are dips at equal intervals, and the spacing between these dips where the transmittance is becoming small, it is equal to 2B bar. And the reduced mass we can find out for carbon monoxide, and here I am talking about the 12CO isotope, and the reduced mass is then given by mu CO is equal to mass of carbon into mass of oxygen divided by mass of carbon plus mass of oxygen. So, in the present atomic mass system, the mass of the carbon atom is defined as 12.0000 in terms of the atomic units. The mass of an oxygen atom in this system is equal to 15.9949 Q, and you see it is not exactly 16. this is the mass in gram of an Avogadro's number of oxygen atoms, so that the mass of one oxygen atom in kg, because this was in gram, you have to multiply by 10 raised power of minus 3 to get in kg, and since it is the mass of an Avogadro number of oxygen atoms, you have to divide by the Avogadro number, and this is equal to 6.022 into 10 raised power of 23 per mole, and that of one carbon is similarly 12 into 10 raised power of minus 3 divided by the Avogadro number Na. So, when we insert these values, we obtain that the reduced mass of carbon monoxide is equal to 11.38365 into 10 raised power of minus 22 kg. We also know that the moment of inertia is equal to the reduced mass multiplied by RCO square. So, we can obtain the value of RCO by inserting the values of I and mu CO in the expression. R is equal to square root of I by mu, and this turns out to be 0.1131 nanometer. So, what you find is a very accurate bond length up to the fourth place of decimal in nanometer, and microwave spectroscopy is a very important source of very accurate bond lengths with high precision. We will take up an example. The rotational constant B for some sodium halides are as they are given in the table, and values of B are in units of megahertz. This is also another unit that is used, and you are required to find out the bond distance in each of these and to make a comment about whether any pattern is observed. So, sodium, the atomic weights of all of these are given: sodium, chlorine 35, and that is approximately equal to 35, and for bromine it is given, which is approximately 79, and for 127 iodine it is equal to 127 approximately. But these are not exactly 23 or 35 or 79 or 127, and you have to find out the exact reduced masses using these values. Expression for the rotational constant in frequency units, because now it has been given in frequency units, represents yet another way of expressing it. In this case, B, when it is expressed in hertz, is equal to the value of B, which was in joule, divided by H, and you can satisfy yourself that the correct units are obtained. So, the rotational constant, you can find out the value B is equal to h cross square by 2I, and then divide by H also, because B has been expressed in hertz. And what you find is the reduced mass, you can substitute the expression, and you find that the internuclear distance turns out to be 7.24692 into 10 raised power of minus 35 divided by square root of mu into B, because I have substituted all the values of the constants. For sodium chloride, the reduced mass you can calculate by putting in the values of the masses of sodium and the chlorine atom, and what you find is that the internuclear distance turns out to be 236.087 picometer. Similarly, this is picometer is 10 raised power of minus 12 meters, and this is also one way that we express the internuclear distances. Similarly, for sodium bromide and sodium iodide, the computed bond lengths are 250.21 picometer and 271.14 picometer. As the atomic number of the halide increases, so does the sodium X bond length, since the size of the halide has increased. This is the answer to the comment that was asked for. So, again we reproduce the rotational spectrum of carbon monoxide, and it shows there are some absorptions to the left, that is smaller wave number of the main absorptions. Now, this has been attributed to the isotopomer, that is an isotope of carbon is used, which is 13 carbon oxygen, which is present to the extent of about 1% in the sample. This is the natural abundance of carbon 13 in a sample of carbon monoxide, and the ratios of intensities of peaks due to, that is 13 carbon monoxide and 12 carbon monoxide, can be used to determine the natural abundance of 13 carbon, and it turns out to be 1.1%. The upper scale also shows the expected values for 13 CO and the lower scale those for 12 CO. Now, since the mass of the carbon atom is different in the two isotopomers, the moment of inertia of 13 CO is different from that of the normal isotopomer. Consequently, the rotational constant is also different and can be obtained from the spacing of the spectrum. and you find that 2b bar is equal to 3.67337 centimeter inverse. The internuclear distance should be independent of isotopic substitution, since it only depends on the number of electrons and atomic number of the elements. Now, the two isotopomers, they differ only in the number of neutrons. You do not change the number of protons or the number of electrons to get a higher isotope, and that is why we expect that the internuclear distance should remain unchanged. So, we assume that the internuclear separations of the two species are the same. Now, we take ratios of the rotational constants of the normal species and that of the isotopomer, and which we have denoted by a prime, and you can write down B prime by B bar is equal to mu by mu prime, because the R square is the same on both 12 CO and 13 CO. Now, you substitute the values of B bar and B prime that were given to you, and you expand this equation, and you can put in all the values of the masses, and you find, since everything except the mass of carbon 13 is known, you can find out the mass of carbon 13. It turns out to be 13.0007 U, which is within 0.02% of the most accurate value which has been determined now. And you must appreciate that the molecular parameters for the less populated isomer were obtained in 1950, and they were obtained from a normal sample of carbon monoxide without isotopic substitution. No isotopic substitution was done. This was just the natural abundance of carbon 13, and this was done at a time when Planck's constant was not known that accurately. So, by using this equation, what we have done is we have eliminated Planck's constant. You do not need to know the value, because when you take the ratio, it just cancels out. Now, let us take another example. We want to find out the moment of inertia of H35Cl, H37Cl and D35Cl, and we assume that all of them have the same equilibrium bond length, 127.5 picometer. Now, one thing that one must emphasize here is that when you are finding out the reduced mass or the moment of inertia of any molecule, you cannot take the average chlorine atomic mass, that is 35.5, you have to take the exact one for either 35 or 37 chlorine, and this is exactly what we have done. And we want to find out what are the positions of the first 5 rotational transitions for HCl and DCl. DCl is an isotope of hydrogen deuterium, has been substituted for hydrogen, and the atomic masses have been given for 35 chlorine and for 37 chlorine, and for a proton 1H, and for deuterium 2H 2.0141. So, we find out the reduced mass by substituting all the expressions, and we find that the reduced mass for HCl is equal to 1.62665 into 10 raised power of minus 27 kg, and I is equal to mu r square, and this is equal to 1.62665 into 10 raised power of minus 27 kg into 1.275 into 10 raised power of minus 12 meters, and the whole thing square, and this turns out to be 2.64432 into 10 raised power of minus 47 kg meter square. And you can find out the rotational constant by substituting this value, and the first line will appear at 2b, and which is at 4.2 into 10 raised power of minus 22 joules, and in centimeter inverse this is equal to 21.1718 centimeter inverse, or in hertz it is equal to 6.3473 into 10 raised power of 11, or you can also write in terms of gigahertz, 10 raised power of 12 hertz, and this turns out to be 0.63473. So, the next 4 lines will be observed at 4b, 6b, 8b and 10b, and you can substitute the values and get the values in gigahertz. You can do a similar calculation for H37Cl, for which the reduced mass is calculated as 1.62911 into 10 raised power of minus 27 kg. The moment of inertia is equal to 4.1948 into 10 raised power of minus 47 kg meter square, and the rotational constant B in joule is equal to 2.09974 into 10 raised power of minus 22. The first 5 lines are observed at 0.63371, 1.2674, 1.9011, 2.5348 and 3.1686 gigahertz. So for HCl we find that the lines are at a smaller value of the frequency, and this is because the reduced mass of HCl is larger because chlorine here is heavier isotope, and because of that the moment of inertia is also larger, and since it appears in the denominator for B, B is smaller and the spacing is 2B, so it is smaller. We do a similar calculation for DCl, and here the reduced mass turns out to be 3.16242 into 10 raised to the power of minus 27 kg. The moment of inertia is equal to 5.14091 into 10 raised to the power of minus 47 kg meter square, and B is equal to 1.08167 into 10 raised to the power of minus 22 joule. And you find that the first 5 lines are observed at 0.326494, 0.652988, 0.979482, 1.30598 and 1.63247 gigahertz. There was a reason for choosing this example. The first reason is that when you substitute HCl by H37 chlorine, you find that the spacing has decreased, but not to that extent. But when you replace hydrogen by deuterium, the spacing becomes almost half. So these results are very, very interesting. We first learned that substitution of 35 chlorine by 37 chlorine does not have such a profound effect on the rotational constant, but substitution of hydrogen by deuterium decreases it almost to half. The reason is not far to see. The atomic mass of deuterium is almost double that of hydrogen compared to a smaller ratio 1.057 for the 2 isotopes of chlorine. Since the rotational constant is inversely proportional to the moment of inertia, doubling the latter reduces the rotational constant to half. The second observation is that large differences in the rotational constants of CO and HCl. The rotational constant for the latter, that is HCl, is almost 5 times that of carbon monoxide. Again, reason is that the moment of inertia of HCl is much smaller than that of carbon monoxide because it contains a light element hydrogen. The microwave region is termed as the region between 3 into 10 to the power of minus 3 gigahertz and 3 gigahertz, and we can see that for both the hydrogen halides the region is crossed even in the 5th transition. So most of the transitions will not be seen in the microwave region. Data about the rotational spectra of linear molecules is very scarce. Most linear molecules are diatomic, and amongst these only the heteronuclear ones are microwave active. None of the homonuclear diatomics will be microwave active. Most of the linear molecules have hydrogen as one of the atoms, because if they have a dipole moment you need an element like hydrogen there. Because of the small mass of atomic hydrogen, they have low moments of inertia and consequently large rotational constants, because of which very few transitions are observed in the microwave region. Most transitions go into the infrared region. The hydrogen halides also give intense spectra because of the large electronegativity difference between the two atoms, which makes for high dipole moments. As you know, the halides have a very high electronegativity, and because of that the hydrogen halides have a large dipole moment. So the intensities of the transitions are very high. Now we come to another aspect, the non-rigid rotator or the non-rigid rotor. Though the initial few peaks maintain a constant spacing of 2b as we had expected, it is found that subsequent lines crowd together and the spacing constantly decreases with increasing rotational quantum number until finally a continuum is observed. This is the experimental spectrum. In the experimental spectrum, the 2b constant spacing is not maintained for higher quantum numbers. Now the reason for this is centrifugal distortion that constantly increases the bond length and until the bond eventually breaks. We had assumed that the diatomic molecule can be modeled as a rigid rotator, that is the bond between the two atoms is rigid and cannot change its length. Now we are talking actually about real molecules, so this is not really strictly true. A diatomic molecule is constantly changing its bond length because of vibration. You know that all molecules are constantly vibrating, and that is why the bond length is going on changing. In deriving the energy levels of a rigid rotator, we had ignored vibration because rotation and vibration span different time scales. This is what we had seen. This is essentially the Born-Oppenheimer approximation. As the energy spacings are so different, for rotation they are 1 to 10 centimeter inverse, and for vibration they are approximately 1000 centimeter inverse or more. The two kinds of motion can be treated independently because they are very different. However, unlike rotation, where the molecule can have zero rotational energy, when the molecule does not rotate, there is a 0 point vibrational energy equal to half nu wave h nu wave, where nu wave is the characteristic frequency of vibration. This is the minimum vibrational energy a molecule may attain, and thus even at the absolute zero of temperature, when it does not have any thermal energy, real molecules undergo vibration. While the frequency of vibration is about 10 raised to the power of 13 second inverse, that of rotation is 10 raised to the power of 10 to 10 raised to the power of 11 second inverse. That means hundreds of vibration occurred in the space of a single rotation, and what you measure in rotational spectra is the average bond length of all these vibrations. Vibration is a motion in which the bond length constantly elongates and compresses in a harmonic way. Let us assume that there is 10% elongation and compression of a bond. This is roughly the amount of stretching or compression in the zero vibrational energy level, and let us assume that the bond length of this molecule is 100 picometer, which is an average bond length. Due to vibration, the bond length will vary between 90 and 110, because we said it is 10%. So, it will be 100 plus minus 10, and this is 90 and 110, and the average will again be 100 picometer. But what you observe in pure rotational spectroscopy, you measure the rotational constant, which is inversely proportional to the moment of inertia, and the moment of inertia is proportional to the square of the bond length. So, what you measure in rotational spectroscopy is B, which is inversely proportional to 1 by r square, or B is proportional to the average value of 1 by r square and not to the average value of r. Now, in this example, the average of 1 by r square you can find out by taking half of 1 by 100 square plus 1 by 90 square, the average of these two values, and what you find is that this turns out to be 1 by 103 square. Thus, even when simple harmonic motion is assumed, the average bond length measured in rotational spectra is slightly higher than the actual bond length, and hence the measured rotational constant is lower than the actual value. If a bond is weak, it will have a low vibrational frequency and it will be easier to distort this molecule. When a molecule is in a higher rotational level, it rotates fast, and hence there is a centrifugal distortion which depends upon the strength of the bond. If the bond is weak, it is easy to distort it, and if it is strong, it is difficult to distort it. Hence, vibration and rotation are interdependent because it depends upon the strength of the bond, and this amounts to breakdown of the Born-Oppenheimer approximation that we had assumed. The centrifugal distortion pulls the atoms apart, as you know, and which increases the bond length, and which increases with increasing J value because the rotation becomes faster. Consequently, the rotational constant and hence the spacing between adjacent lines decreases with increasing J. Now, this factor can be taken into account if we rewrite the expression for the rotation energy to include another term, that is the rotational term Fj is equal to B bar into J plus 1 minus D bar J square into J plus 1 square, and here this D bar that we have introduced is again in wave number, and it is a small positive constant. It is called the centrifugal distortion constant, and you can derive the value of its magnitude. D bar is equal to 4 B bar cube by nu bar by omega square, and this is in centimeter inverse, and it depends, as you can see, on both the vibrational quantum number, its wave number, omega. Strong bonds have lower centrifugal distortion constants because then omega is large and D bar is small, and rotational constant also, it depends on that. For a typical molecule, taking B bar as 10 centimeter inverse and omega as 1000 centimeter inverse, we find that the magnitude of d bar is roughly 0.001 centimeter inverse, and it is much smaller than the rotational constant, which was 10 centimeter inverse. So, let us see now what is the effect on the spectrum of the non-rigid rotator by including this term. The spacing between adjacent rotational lines, or the wave number of the photon absorbed, because this is what is happening, it is causing transition between adjacent rotational levels. It can be obtained by substitution from equation 7, and what you find is that to the term 2b bar j plus 1, you have to add another term minus 4d bar j plus 1 square. This expression tells us that each peak is displaced slightly to the left, because you have a new negative term that has entered the picture. This displacement depends on the j quantum number. Since d bar is extremely small, this term starts making an effect only when j is large, that is, it is 10 or more. This term increases with increasing j until it becomes so large that it becomes equal to the first term, and a continuum is observed. That is, that the positive term and the negative term become equal to each other, and then you do not have any rotational spacing. So, here we give another example. In this example, you have to calculate the wavelength of the first 8 lines of the pure rotational spectrum of CLF. The bond length is 0.1630 nanometer, and the centrifugal distortion constant is also given. It is 10 raised power of minus 4 b bar. You are given the values of the atomic masses of chlorine and that of fluorine 19. You can find out the reduced mass, and then you can substitute the value of r to get the moment of inertia, which turns out to be 5.430 into 10 raised power of minus 46 kg meter square, and from this you can find out the value of the rotational constant, which turns out to be 0.5155 centimeter inverse, and d bar is much smaller because it is 10 raised power of minus 4 times this, and you can find out the value of nu bar. So, when you look at the transition from j is equal to 0 to 1, the nu bar is equal to the frequency of absorption is 1.030908, its lambda value is 0.97. Similarly, for 1 to 2 you get twice the value, for 2 to 3 approximately thrice the value, and so on. And here we have substituted the values of d bar. They are slightly different from twice, thrice, 4 times the value of as you would have obtained for the case of the rigid rotator. If you can find 3 lines, adjacent lines, that means which are next to each other, and you can find out the values of all the 3 unknowns, which are j, b bar and d bar, the value of j from which the transition originated, the rotational constant and the centrifugal distortion constant. This is very important because it allows us to calculate the vibrational frequency, because the centrifugal distortion constant not only depends upon b bar, it also depends upon the value of the vibrational frequency. So, even from the microwave spectrum you can get a rough idea about the vibrational frequency, and in this case you can find that it turns out to be 837 centimeter inverse. This is a rough value. More accurate values can be obtained from infrared spectroscopy. So, finally, we will summarize the entire chapter. Microwave spectroscopy is applied to obtain accurate bond distances of heteronuclear diatomic molecules. Rotational lines of diatomic molecules are equally spaced and yield rotational constants, which are inversely proportional to the moment of inertia. The moment of inertia is proportional to the reduced mass of the molecule and the square of the bond distance. Thus, the bond distance can be determined. Isotopic substitution does not affect the bond length, and for molecules whose bond distances are known, the isotopic masses can be determined. So, if this is the unknown, you can determine the isotopic mass. If the bond length is the unknown and the isotope mass is known, you can find out the whatever is the unknown. The spacing between rotational lines decreases with increasing quantum number due to centrifugal distortion.